No, that's more British Parliament than American politics. But hello and welcome to Video Game Town Hall Meeting, the podcast of Video Game Town. And by listening, you're now a member, a council member, I guess you could say. I'm the mayor, Jared Russo, and I'm here again with the Video Game Town janitor, lead custodian, head garbage man, Grant Bruner.
I am a garbage man. Man of garbage. Nothing but the butt is how I like to live my life.
Those are great words to live by, but also, you are not garbage. You take out the trash. You're the one responsible for cleaning this city up.
Yeah, this town. We're incorporated as a town. It's very important to make the distinction.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Again, apologies.
The corporate charter, let me tell you.
You know garbage men make a lot of money.
Of course they do. They work hard.
Good for them. Teachers, however.
Yeah, they work hard and then a society goes, nah.
It's June, and depending on where you live, it might be unbelievably sweltering.
It's pretty
just
hot here.
A muggy, swampy, awful place to live. And in a few years, global warming will make that every part of the Earth. But June is also Pride Month.
It's true.
And who better to discuss their earliest experience with queer content in games than two white, heterosexual, cisgendered men?
So here's what I'll say about myself. I hate gender, and I'm something of a gender abolitionist, is probably how I would classify myself. So I am in a hetero-presenting relationship, but I would say gender, not a fan of it. Not a fan. So I would say that is my primary relationship with queerness and the queer community, is not a fan of gender. I care pretty deeply about queerness in games and LGBTQ representation in games. I've taken it upon myself to make sure that we cover Pride Month substantially in what we're doing, especially because we're launching during Pride Month, and our first couple of episodes, our first content, there will be a substantial amount of pride. With that, I have a few, and I'll talk about the posts that I've made. But I wanted to talk about, what is the first time you remember there being explicitly queer content in a video game? I have a list of mine, but can you remember the first time you were like, oh, they're like dealing with queerness in some way?
Yes.
What
Do
is
you
that?
remember the early 2000s in video game magazines? They would advertise in very risque ways games that sometimes had nothing to do with being sexually explicit. But there was one game that I remember the advertisements to where I was like, oh, ladies can also like ladies. And that was Fear Effect and Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix.
Oh, no, I have no recollection of Fear Effect at all. Like, that's a name that rings a bell, but I never played those. I don't know, like, basically anything about it. Is it like doing like the gross like leering at lesbians thing?
I don't know. I don't think so. This seems to be a relatively, I don't want to say straightforward, but it just seems to be just like, hey, this game is about two women, and sure, it's set in the future in Hong Kong, and you shoot, but it's like gorgeous cell shading, and it's like pseudo 3D, and, pistol shotguns,
Sure.
EMPs and lasers and stuff. But, like, they really did put out right up front, it's like, this is what this game is about. Like, these two chicks are in love, and the future is scary, and sometimes you got to be like a perfect dark spy or whatever. But like that, I think the second one in particular, like that's what that game was being advertised as, and I was like, oh,
that's pretty interesting. For me, the very first time I ever interfaced with queer content in a game was definitely the first Knights of the Old Republic game. Juhani is a team member, a playable character, and she is explicitly a bisexual character. Not only is it the first time that I interfaced with queerness in a video game, but I also believe that it is the first time that there was queer content in any like official Star Wars thing. Like, obviously you can read, like, from a fan perspective, lots of things can be read as queer, but I mean, like, it is explicitly queer.
So not R2D2 C3PO.
Right, not like oh,
Or
you could do a
nerdy.
queer reading of this, but it is in the text Juhani is bi. And then I also want to say the second time that I interfaced with it, with queer content in games, is another BioWare game, Jade Empire, which expands, I would say, substantially. Lots of, there's same-sex romance, there's, you know, like, there's also, like, polyamory, or at least, like, non-monogamy in that game. They are definitely, like, expanding on it in a way. And especially because, like, Jade Empire, it's, you know, BioWare's own IP. They don't have to have a George Lucas employee being like, I don't know, it's 2005, I don't know about gay people, which is, I think, broadly how corporations acted at that point. It
seemed like most of America in 2005 was
yeah,
like that.
it's wild how things have changed so drastically in such a relatively short time, but how much where, like, if there were gay characters, they were almost always like a punchline. The other one that I think is relatively early on was, I remember that there was like a reactionary uproar because in the Rockstar game Bully, the main character can kiss boys. And it isn't, at least how I remember it, it's not played for laugh. It's just, like, you can kiss your schoolmates, and sometimes those are boys.
You know, having played most of Rockstar's entire gamography...
Yeah, not exactly the most tolerant or well-thought-out implementations of queer people.
Or a lot of things.
Lots of people. Anybody who's not a straight white man, basically.
Lots of groups.
Mm-hmm.
I never played Bully, and I remember not even renting, I borrowed an Xbox from a neighbor and played through KOTOR 1 and Jade Empire. I don't remember most of those experiences, like, to the nitty-gritty where I could tell you about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's Gay Tony. He had a DLC for GTA 4.
I also have that written down here, GTA 4, The Ballad of Gay Tony, who's like a club owner. I would say the fact that it is named Gay Tony indicates that it's certainly played for effect. Like, it's not just, here's a dude named Tony who is gay. It's playing up some stereotypes. You know, I don't think that it is, like, necessarily explicitly negative about Gay Tony, but I think
it wasn't,
because it's particularly kind of playing in that same space as, like, The Sopranos was, where it's like, listen, like, homosexuality exists in these spaces, in these, like, you know, like, crime adjacent spaces, and that rubs up against a lot of, like, people doing, like, machismo, like, you know, these hard, rigid gender roles that are part of, like, these, you know, crime infrastructure. Hey, maybe the people who are doing crime are not always how they portray themselves.
Yeah, I think by that point, Rockstar was like, we could make this into, like, a Tobias Funke from Arrested Development kind of thing, but I don't remember that DLC being all that interested in that. Like, he was a character, but it had other things going on, and it wasn't like you would do missions for him, and it was, you know, like, they weren't like harping on it, despite the title. But
yeah, it is named The Ballad of Gay Tony.
Yeah.
Another early one that I remember is the first Nier. The first Nier, Emil is gay, and Kaine is intersex.
I could not tell you what consoles Nier 1 came out on.
PS3
or what year.
And Xbox 360.
I would have figured even earlier. Huh.
No, because it's a spin-off. Nier is a spin-off of one of the, like, almost, not joke ending, but, like, one of the weird endings of Drakengard. I want to say Drakengard 2. So, like, Nier is a Drakengard spin-off.
Kind of like Shin Megami Tensei led to Persona?
Yeah, yes. It is very similar to that. And is that, like...
And where does Dot Hack
I don't think Dot Hack is related to any of the Drakengards.
Never mind. Okay. I remember there being jokes about Birdo, but that was more of like a...
But that's like in the manual.
Later internet.
It's in like the manual. Like, because...
I don't even remember the manual.
No,
I remember
like,
the internet being like...
It is like canonical in that, like, like, Birdo is trans. And, like, in, like, when they... It's confusing, but Birdo is... And it's not, like... I want to say the writing is not, like, necessarily trans-inclusive. Like, it's not like, oh man, they sure do have a great understanding of what it means to be trans. But Birdo, I think, is canonically trans. The other real terrible one is is it Poison? The character
from Street Fighter, yes.
It's like Final Fight, right? It's not...
Yeah, she's from Final Fight, and she hangs out with Hugo.
But it's the worst. But it's the worst fucking transphobia, because that she was originally conceived as a cis woman, and then they brought it to the U.S. and they're like, ugh, people probably have feelings about doing violence to women. It's okay. We'll make her trans and people will feel great about doing violence to a trans woman. It is the grossest shit imaginable.
Okay, so I'm looking this up. In 1989, depending on the region and the translation, it could be either or. And one of her win quotes is, quote, "Being gossiped about is proof of my popularity," which just amplified that. So
that shit fucking sucks. I do think poison has been reclaimed though. Like
yes.
Hey, we don't have to hold on to that horse shit. Like, that shit sucks, but we don't have to continue that. And I do believe there's been some like trans reclamation of poison.
I was just about to say, yeah, the FGC has definitely like completely done its own sort of like reinterpretation / like embracing of Poison, who was in the DLC for 4, which is based on the character assets from Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be shocked if in the future they include Poison more, because she was pretty cool. But
Poison's a pretty fucking cool name.
I mean, her hanging out with Hugo, the big German dude, like, that's just cool in its own part. Let me tell you about a little game called BioShock and Sander Cohen, the evil maniacal artist who sets up like the best level in that game.
Yeah.
That is the first actual time I was playing a game, and it was one of these things where I was like, I didn't even think twice. I was like, oh, Sander Cohen. All right. I get what's going on here. And I played, like, you don't start and you're like, oh, a gay character? Like, it wasn't like that. It was just like, all right, Sander Cohen. Like, other than you murdering people and putting them in, like, not concrete. What's that artist material that he puts the people in?
I don't remember.
Not paper mache. Like the plaster or whatever. Like,
yeah.
Anyways, I think 07 was like around the time where it was just like, I think my brain is able to handle people being LGBTQIA+.
Yeah.
And I don't think twice about it. Whereas when I was a child and I was like, whoa, 2 girls kissing, because like that was,
But I wanted to bring up a few of the posts that we've been covering. By the time this comes out, there will be 3, and there should be a 4th by the end of this month, June.
Ooh.
The first one is 3 incredibly gay games you should play during Pride Month. I won't talk about I won't mention the other 2 because I do want you to be surprised the first time you read it. But this is a great opportunity I played Thirsty Suitors, and I really wanted to talk about Thirsty Suitors, and the kind of like the complexities of like South Asian American identity and queerness and just relationships in general, and like not coming of age like a child becoming an adult, but it's like this is a young adult who's like fucked up a bunch of relationships, and they're trying to like mature past like the start of their adulthood into a more like well-rounded and adult. So like, yeah, definitely check that out. 3 incredibly gay games you should play during Pride Month. The other one is unexpectedly gay games to play during Pride. Again, I won't talk about the other 2, but one includes Haven. One of the inclusions is Haven. Haven is the reason why it is surprising is that I played through Haven. And it is a delightful kind of action adventure game where the main story is like, it was, by all accounts, a cis dude and a cis lady having like a forbidden relationship because of like class or caste. And then they get stranded in a world and whatever, they have a relationship. So it's like, well, that's not very gay. But then they released a whole update to it where you can basically change U and K are the names of the characters, where it's like, you want them to be 2 ladies, you want them to be 2 dudes, you want them to be a lady and a dude. It's up to you on how that plays out. So you can have that relationship play out however you'd like, and I think that's pretty fucking cool.
That almost reminds me of in Elden Ring and one of the Dark Souls, you can swap your body type from being more masculine-y to more feminine-y. I think it's like body type A and B. And you get into a coffin. You get into a coffin, and then you come out and your body's all morphed, and it's super dope.
The games have gotten better about being like not gendering necessarily body types and voices, and just being like, yo, do you want a deep voice? You want a like a high voice?
Yeah.
You want like a muscly body? You want like a round curvy body? Like, it's up to you. You don't have to assign that to a specific gender. You can interpret it however you like. Pick your pronouns. All that stuff is like, if the character is a fixed person and like it's Lara Croft, you want Lara Croft to be Lara Croft, like to be the character in the story. But if you have a custom character, then yeah, let it be whoever the fuck the person playing the game wants to be.
Yeah, shout out to Cyberpunk and letting you choose your genitals, and there's definitely no other problems with that game. game.
Yeah, there's some stuff about the voices and that being tied to the gen. I mean, like, there's other trans problems with that game. Like, it is such a weird game because it is simultaneously doing a bunch of, like, really good things about, like, gay representation, and a bunch of, like, queer people, like, really love that game and love the queer stories that it's telling, but it also has a bunch of problems, and, like, especially around the way the game did marketing around, like, trans fetishization, and that shit sucks unambiguously. Like, definitely not giving that game a pass. That they fucked up a lot of, like, that game has a bunch of problems and has had a bunch of problems, and the way that they dealt with, like, trans people in the marketing of that game is bad, and they should feel bad about it.
Night City, a land of contrast.
Yeah. Complicated, some good, some bad, some very disappointing. And then the third one, surprisingly sexy queer games to play during Pride. I will not discuss the two others, but the one game I do want to discuss is a Christine Love game, Lady Killer in a Bind, which is very sexy. In fact, too sexy for YouTube, in that they will not let me embed the trailers. Even the censored trailer is too much. So there's Destructoid made a fake trailer where they superimpose, like, Transformers over the characters. And so I've embedded that into it, which is good. She's made a bunch of really good games, and Lady Killer in a Bind is very very queer, very sexy. It's obviously there is some BDSM shit, there's, like, identity stuff, there's transness and queerness, like, all over Lady Killer in a Bind, and it's just a really cool visual novel. And I think that it's, like, you're telling weird wonky stories, and sometimes it talks about stuff that's not like the pleasant side of sex and sexuality. But yeah, like there's no one doing it better than Christine Love. She's great. And Lady Killer in a Bind is a cool game that you should play during Pride.
Can I make two recommendations?
You should.
Other than people reading your articles on videogame.town.
You should.
One is Gone Home, which is one of my favorite games ever, ever, ever. Playing a game late at night on my computer at grad school, and that shit blew my mind. It lifted a veil over my eyes and made me discover, I was like, oh, we're in a completely new area where, like, this can be done. Not just in the indie space, but in the way that it was, like, Game of the Year time now is, like, we need to be talking about this.
Yeah.
And not just, like, I guess Gears of War 3's in the top 10, because that's all we have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I pointed out Gears of War 3. I like that game, but you know what I mean. Annualized, sequels, great brown shooters. And there is a wonderful YouTube video essay from Void Burger, who used to work at Giant Bomb, on Phantasmagoria 2, A Puzzle of Flesh.
Yeah. Those games have not great. I have not seen her video essay. I do want to read or watch her video essay. But I have watched, I want to say Vinny Caravella, and I don't remember if it was at Giant Bomb or if it was once they had left and went to Next Land. I watched them play Phantasmagoria, and there is some stuff.
Hell yeah, dude. And then, yeah, dude. Like, it's like both.
Yes, it is like, wow, this is doing something, but woof.
Yeah, in the way that, like, when you and I watch X-Files and there's an episode where it's like, this alien can shapeshift and turn into men and women, and we're like, well, that's sort of progressive for the time, but also, like, yikes,
Yes.
They were working it out.
Not to blow anyone's mind too bad, but I did explicitly, I was talking to my wife after we saw Sinners, and the moment that in Sinners, there is a moment where you see some Native American people, and I'm having X-Files flashbacks, and I'm like, oh no! Oh no! What are they going to do with these Native people? And thankfully, like, that goes by pretty fast, and they don't really dig too deep into it to get, like, too problematic. Before, there was a hot minute where I'm like, oh god, what are they doing?
It turns out that film set, or at least thinks, that the Native Americans are the smartest of any of the people involved.
Oh, I mean, certainly, like, the Native people that are shown in that segment are, like, they fucking know what the hell is going on in the world of Sinners. Yeah.
And they get out of Dodge real quick.
They're like, well, fuck this shit. Goodbye.
Yes. Oh, God. What a great movie. Any final thoughts before we dive into a little bit about what we've been playing lately?
Nothing. Happy Pride. Go read our articles and go play gay games.
Or games that happen to have gay people in them.
Sure. Yes. But make sure to go play them and buy them. Support developers who are queer in various flavors.
So, recently, I have completed the Lies of P DLC called Overture, and by recently, I mean right before this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's more Lies of P, and it's great, and I can't believe it exists. It is by far the best Souls-like from a studio not called From Software. And
But it's also about Pinocchio, which is crazy.
But it's like cool robot, like train conductor looking dudes and like old-timey English police officer constable looking dudes, and then like a disease that influences like people and monsters in like a zoo, so like the animals at the zoo are all like infected, so there's like a behemoth with like a zebra head and a lion head and a giraffe head sticking out of it, and it's got like a cool bow and arrow weapon and a gun blade from Final Fantasy VIII. It's more of the same. It might be a little pricey, but I so enjoy Lies of P. It is such a wonderful play, and I don't have enough to say about it to make it into an article, but it shadow dropped when I was on vacation, and I was so pissed I couldn't just like jump in, because God, what a fun time that is.
Is the reason that it works is that it is evoking Bloodborne? Is that why?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of Bloodborne DNA in that game, but it just plays really well, and it does all the Souls things. Like, it executes on them correctly, and it also kind of adds its own little, like, unique twists and, little changes to the formula. I mean, he has, like, a left arm that's, like, a robot thing that it's, like, you can put different weapon in your arms, which is just Sekiro. Like, that's all that is. Like, a flamethrower, a shotgun, like, a little cannon, or, like, the thing that deflects. But it looks gorgeous, and the music, and it like, oddly makes more sense than most of the Souls games, because it has, like, a story and not just lore dumps. But I say that very loosely because it's also just like, oh, Geppetto invented the thing, and then there's like this ethereal magic-y goo, and there's a golden tree with apples, and you're just like, okay, like, I mean, some of this is just inscrutable and ridiculous, and I mean, that's neat, but like, I don't know if I like care about like what Jiminy has to tell me about like, oh, the city of Krot fell when this happened or whatever, and you're like, okay, evil robots, I get it.
Sure, everybody loves evil robots, especially when they're sad.
These, you know what? There actually are a good number of sad side quests about sad robots who, like, don't know they're robots, or they don't know that, like, humanity has, like, fallen and stuff, and they're just kind of, like, bleeding out, and you can, like, come back to them later, and they're still not dead, and they're, like, like, you can lie to them about, like, oh, yeah, everything is great, or, like, you did it, or, like, your life was or you can just be like, no, everyone is deceased, like, you failed, or, like, that's not your baby, that's a robot, like, you can do stuff like that. It's very funny.
I do love sad robots, but not enough to play a Souls-like.
Yeah, I don't think... I would not recommend that you play it. I would maybe recommend that you, like, look up some stuff on the internet.
Sad
like
robots.
Like, teach this robot human emotions by using, like, emotes, like happiness and sadness and anger. But, like,
dab on the robot to teach them human emotions. Do the Running Man on the robot.
That's a real thing. It's great.
I mean, I think it is kind of funny. Do the Carlton dance.
Have you been playing anything recently?
I have been playing some stuff. Like, not only have I been playing just a shitload of Mario Kart, which is obvious. I've been doing that. I've been playing a little bit of the demo of Dispatch, which is the upcoming superhero comedy tongue-in-cheek thing. There's a demo out for Steam Next Fest. It seems pretty cool. The performances so far have been pretty good. They're right. I don't know about this writing. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. And the other, we'll see. I mean, it's like when you do an intro, sometimes you want like the punchiest or like the most outrageous stuff to come first, and then to like get people's attention, and then you can get better. We'll see how Dispatch goes. And then you're dispatching dudes, like, or people that are superheroes from an office. So it's you're doing like office stuff and superhero stuff, and it seems interesting, and I'm very interested in that final release. I've been playing some Death Stranding 1 on the PS5 because Death Stranding 2 is about to come out, and I've been trying to get through. I don't think I know I didn't. I never finished the game, and I kind of want to before playing, but I don't know. We'll see. I did play, like, I want to say it's something like 35 hours, 40 hours, something of that game. I played a lot of that game. I didn't just like boot it up and play a couple hours. I played a lot of that game. But I didn't finish it, and I would like to finish it before then. And the other thing that I wanted to call out is a game from Wadjet Eye. These are the people who continue to make like LucasArts style point-and-click adventure games. Their most recent game, Old Skies, is out. It is on PC and is also on Switch, which is playable on Switch too. And I think we're probably going to end up streaming some Old Skies because it's pretty great.
Sure. I'm always down to pop in and see what you are loading up and be surprised by the results.
Yeah.
I find that entertaining. Now, briefly, I want to go back to Death Stranding because I want to say there's a quote floating around where Kojima was like, early on in playtesting, people were really enjoying what we were doing with the first and second games, and I kept being like, we need to change this so that there's more friction because I don't want people to all thoroughly enjoy it. I want some people to hate it and some people to love it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If it's not broke, don't fix it, my dude. I don't know. It seemed like you had something good and you were like, let's make it worse so that some sickos are into it.
But see, that's the thing, right? It's like, that's how you make games, or like, that's how you make media. That's how you make stuff that is like great. Because if you just make something that everybody feels like kind of like, it's not bad. That's how you end up with like the mush that the company owned by a certain mouse gives you. It's like, here's gray mush. Everybody, nobody hates this gray mush, so we're gonna keep making gray mush. And I think that sucks. I think the idea of I want to make a thing that is not for everybody, but the people who like it are gonna fucking love it, I think is cool.
Are you calling the Lilo and Stitch live action remake gray mush?
Yes, I'm very much calling every live action remake of a Disney movie gray mush. It's the, like, most coward-like thing a megacorp owned by a mouse could do.
I mean, you're not going to get any disagreements from me. I just wanted to make it clear so that all the haters can go to Blue Sky and Instagram.
Grant.videogame.town.
That's right. And then be like, how dare you hate on Stitch? He's so cute. I love him. My childhood is ruined.
I like Stitch from the movie Lilo and Stitch. The original animated thing that was neat because it was new and like novel and not here's the regurgitated thing 20 years later.
All right. Now I have a question for you, Grant. How many Wes Anderson movies have you seen in your life?
0.
Wow.
Not a one.
Wow.
I will say I think that the Royal Tannenbaums was on cable at some point and I have like seen scenes, but I have not sat down and watched a single Wes Anderson movie.
Wow. Okay, initially I was like, oh, this is going to go really poorly. But now I'm like, wait a second, because I'm working on a review for the website, videogame.town, of The Phoenician Scheme, which is his latest.
Sure.
And I think it might be like top 5. I think it's really funny. I think it's really, really good. So I was like, what if I put together a small rankings to sort of put it in a comparison and sort of just like use context to show like, here's why his best movies are good, and maybe just like quickly kind of go through like why some of his worst movies are. I mean, they're fine, but they're not like amazing.
He's been pretty prolific in the recent years.
He's been cranking them out since he started, and even more recently now. Maybe this would be a good guide for you to watch his films because you could just go straight to the best.
Perhaps. The one thing I want to say, when we were working at the other place, our friend Adwade recommended Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I think that is the one I could convince my wife to watch.
I think that is the easiest sell, yes.
The other ones, it would have to be Grant is burning non-work time to watch this by himself.
Well, I guess you could consider everything that you watch or play, if you're going to mention it on the side of the podcast, to be work.
Yeah, so it's even more work. Yeah, give me more hours of work, Jared.
No, I think it's killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but that's just me.
But Fantastic Mr. Fox, I don't know. It seems charming.
I think it's a top 5 Wes Anderson movie. I think it is really, really, really fun. I think it's like just visually super appealing.
Yeah.
It's an adaptation of a Roald Dahl novel.
I mean, Roald Dahl's a real weirdo.
Okay, so I guess coming full circle, you can eventually read my review of The Phoenician Scheme, where I sort of do like a quick ranking of the Wes Anderson filmography. In the same way that when my Mario Kart World review went up, I just wanted to do like a quick rankings to sort of show people like,
where
listen, I'm going to sound overly negative, but it is not the worst of the worst.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, listen.
Whereas this might be top 5.
Oh, really? Okay. The thing I think that has made the Wes Anderson stuff never, like, the things that would have come out when I was watching movies all the time would have been Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and Darjeeling Limited. And I think that there was in the mid-aughts, there is an amount of, like, the Bill Murray-ification of culture in like, very much like late Gen X and early millennials were like, oh, I love Bill Murray. And like that becomes like a personality trait. And I think that was off-putting for me at the time. But I'm sure that it all seems like a little, I don't know, affected. I think affected is the word that, like, because I mind you, like, I'm basing this off of seeing trailers like 20 years ago, thinking that like, oh, there's like a heavy affect to everything happening here.
I think that Bill Murray Renaissance era was
terrible,
incredible.
Oh, okay.
No, him in Rushmore, him in Lost in Translation. I mean, it was like, oh wow, like people figured out like the best way to use him, where he's like both funny and like there's sadness within him that you can like bring out, and it's just like this is a new layer of complexity to someone who was always just like Chevy Chase slapstick. And like we never got like the Chevy Chase like, oh, there's something really going on. It's just like, no, he's just a jerk and he's just really good at what he does and he pisses everyone off, but he's funny.
And then he was Garfield for some reason.
Bill Murray was Garfield because he thought that the director named Joel Cohen was the Coen brothers Joel Cohen, and it turns out it was just a different guy with like a different spelled name.
Fucking good for them. Good for them for getting one over on Bill Murray.
Yep. Incredible. We're going to end with a quiz that you have put together called Give Me a Handheld.
I want to know if which of these games had handheld ports or spin-offs, because sometimes it's not entirely clear when, like, sometimes they'll share a name, or sometimes it will be like this Advance or this DS, and they won't be necessarily like a one-to-one port. So I'll just say port or spin-off. How long did it take to come out after the original game? What devices, what form? That kind of stuff. Like, I want you to tell me, like, what you think when I say the name of the game. Did this get a handheld port or spin-off? And then, like, did it come out around then, or was it much later? Those kind of things. We'll start with 2001's Max Payne from Remedy.
There is no way they made a Max Payne handheld thing. I can't imagine what it would look like. I can't imagine that IP being big enough. But you're going to tell me that there was some sort of a Game Boy Advance game, isn't there?
Max Payne for the GBA came out in 2003.
Yep.
As an isometric shooter. It is a faithful retelling of the original game.
That's madness.
They kept doing that. They kept taking, like, first-person shooters, or third-person shooters, too, like Max Payne, and making them into, like, isometric games, which is funny. 1997's Tekken 3.
No. Nothing exists.
Tekken Advance hit the GBA in 2001 in Japan. It approximates the Tekken 3 experience, but is non-canonical. And I want to say that the interface is very much like based on like the Tekken Tag stuff, because it was coming out around when Tekken Tag was coming out. It is a Tekken game on the GBA that I owned and is really like shockingly good.
Didn't you say it came out only in Japan?
No. It came out in 2001 in Japan, but it came out in like 2002 in the US.
I have no memory of this. I've seen no one discuss this. I have seen no, like, video essays remembering this.
It's pretty good. Considering that it's on a Game Boy Advance, it gives the Tekken experience pretty fucking good.
That's wild.
I would recommend it. I mean, obviously, like, listen, if you have access to Tekken, then maybe just play Tekken 3. But Tekken Advance, at the time, pretty cool. 2004's Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Now, I know that Metal Gear started, well, it didn't start, but, like, it has been on a Game Boy.
Yes.
And I know that there have been portable Metal Gears on the PUSP.
It's true.
And the PUSP Vita. But
and the Game Boy
specifically
Color.
3?
Yep.
Is this like an N-Gage situation?
I like where your head's at, but no.
Gizmondo?
Nope. Snake Eater 3D inexplicably came out on the 3DS in the year 2012. It was a faithful remake, but with stereoscopic 3D and some touch controls. Why?
No. See, this is an internet rumor that people morphed into. No, this didn't exist.
It existed, and then also technically, they did when they did the HD re-releases of 2 and 3, that also came to the Vita. But I'm not counting that. I'm not counting those. Snake Eater 3D is. I think it was just like, well, it's the third Metal Gear Solid and 3D, so smush them together. Like 8 years later. It's true.
This is a psyop.
It's a 3DS game, and it's
mass hallucination. I refuse to believe that there was a game called Snake Eater 3D.
It's true. 1996's Bubsy 3D.
Is this like the Game Gear era?
1996. Probably. It still exists, probably.
So my older half-brother had a Game Gear, and I only played a Sonic game and a Beavis the Butthead game, and the battery life was so bad.
You gotta play it plugged into a wall.
Why would you mention this if it didn't exist? There's no way that this is like it exists, and I'm sure it's on something.
Thankfully, no handheld port exists of Bubsy 3D.
Jesus Christ, there's no way I'm gonna strike out in this entire quiz.
2005's Cameo.
I don't even understand how Microsoft in that time would have been able to like put a Rare game. It would have been on the DS. There's no way.
Well, here's what I will say. It's important to note that Rare kept putting out Banjo games on the GBA after Microsoft bought them.
But that must have been like a pre-existing...
one of them was, but one of them was they were planning on a Diddy Kong racing thing, but then they no longer had the Nintendo stuff, so they changed it to Banjo Pilot. And I want to say they did another Banjo 2D game on the GBA.
But is the Cameo?
No? Okay. While it seems like there would be a great GBA interpretation of Cameo, it is still stuck on the 360. It is the only place you can play Cameo.
All right, I got one. I feel better.
2008's Soul Calibur 4.
That is so oddly specific.
Mm-hmm. This is the one that has Yoda, has Darth Vader,
Star Killer.
Yeah, Star Killer from those era.
Man. Okay, just for the sake of zagging instead of zigging in my brain, I will say there was a bad PSP port.
You're pretty close. Like, you're pretty much dead on. Soul Calibur Broken Destiny, released on the PSP in 2009. It's clearly heavily based on Soul Calibur 4, but instead of Star Wars characters, it has Kratos. So yes, I would say, even though it is not called Soul Calibur 4, I would say that this is a handheld spin-off of 4. So yes, correct.
I got that right.
Yes. 2006's Viva Pinata.
Yeah, there's a Viva Pinata for the DS, I think.
Viva Pinata Pocket Paradise, released on the Nintendo DS in 2008, shortly after Trouble in Paradise released. Strangely, this is the last Viva Pinata game to date.
Yeah, I know this because my brother is a huge fan of Viva Pinata, and it seems like something I would love, but, like, I don't. I mean, I like watching it from afar, but, like, I'm not, like, a diehard Viva Pinata player in the same way that I'm, like, a diehard Katamari Damacy player.
How crazy is it that next year it will be 20 years since Viva Pinata came out?
It would be more emotionally devastating and sad if I remembered what year that was. And since I don't want you to tell me, let's move on.
2006's Final Fantasy 12.
Final Fantasy 12?
The late era PS2.
No, there was no handheld port or anything.
Final Fantasy 12 Revenant Wings, a tactical RPG, was released on the Nintendo DS in 2007.
God damn it. Are you telling me there was a fucking DS Final Fantasy 12 and no one talks about it?
There was.
Disgusting. You weeaboobs out there carrying the Final Fantasy flag to this day. Shame on you all for not making this a thing.
I love Final Fantasy. 2001's Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh, there were a ton of Sonic games on the Game Boy Advance.
But was there a port or a spin-off of Sonic Adventure 2?
Oh, I don't know. Because I could care less about Sonic, so I'm going to say yeah, sure, and I don't care if I'm wrong. There was too many Sonic. There was an RPG from BioWare, and there was all sorts of stupid crap. Sonic sucks.
There was no handheld version. The GBA Sonic games of that era were entirely different. They were their own thing. They're not even attached to any other, like, they are, like, 2D games that are good. Like, they're good Sonic games. Like, they're not even, like, ports of the Genesis games. They're just entirely separate. They have, like, their own characters. It's weird. Those are weird. Cream the Rabbit, I think, is where Cream the Rabbit is introduced.
There are no good Sonic games, and it's the detritus of the industry. Moving on.
Farming Simulator 2012. 2012.
there has to be a simulator pipeline for phones by now. And I know like the Switch exists, so you can like play things like that on the go, but this is again a very oddly specific thing coming from you. But I'm going to be a little optimistic and say, yeah, sure, why not?
A version called Farming Simulator 3D came out on the 3DS in 2012 in Europe, which eventually led to the release of non-stereoscopic ports to iOS and Android.
Yeah. See, I had a feeling that was coming, because for some reason, like, the simulator genre has exploded.
Yep. They have two more left. 2002's Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, the first Splinter Cell game.
The very first Splinter Cell. You know, in my mind, there has to be a GBA DS Splinter Cell, but I think it might have been like for Chaos Theory or for like either 2, 3, or 4. I don't think 1.
Both the GBA and N-Gage adaptations of the original Splinter Cell came out the following year.
Okay.
Those were side scrollers, and then I want to say Chaos Theory is the one that has a 3D version on the N-Gage, which of course is fucking miserable and runs at like 15 frames per second.
Oh man, the N-Gage.
Whoa.
Who can forget?
1996's Wave Race 64.
Wave Race 64? No, there was no... Oh, well, maybe there was... No, you're saying 96.
Yeah.
No.
This one's tricky. While the first title in the series was 1992's Wave Race on the Game Boy, sadly, the N64 and GameCube games were the only other games in the series.
Yeah.
When are they going to bring back Wave Race?
They will never bring back Wave Race. Let me just tell everyone, the sub genre of Wave Runner on the ocean racing game, that will never ever happen unless you're an indie dev.
Come on, Nintendo. Bring it back. At least
on the NSO.
Yeah, probably. I mean, is 64 on NSO?
I think it is. I think I've played it
because obviously it didn't launch on the GameCube, the GameCube version. But bring it back, Nintendo.
Blue Storm.
Yeah, that sounds right. Cool box art, and that's the game.
Why does my brain remember stuff like this and not anything important?
That's a good question. You did.
My brain remembers Blue Storm Wave Race for the GameCube.
I wasn't keeping track of how many you got, but I feel like you did. Like you got like a third of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Give me a handheld. That's the game.
Good job. Wonderful. And with that, Video Game Town Hall meeting has adjourned. You bamboozled my brain. You have completely skull-fucked me with this handheld thing, and now I'm getting all my words twisted. Good job.
If you want to see what we do, you can go to videogame.town. We're on Blue Sky. Go to videogame.town on Blue Sky. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. All of our socials can be found at the very top of videogame.town. Please review our podcast on your podcatcher of choice. Apple Podcasts is obviously our preferable one, but if you use Spotify, that's fine as well. It helps people see our podcast, so if you like it, please leave a review, a positive review. 5 stars, everybody. And then Jared, people can find you at Blue Sky?
It's just my name. I don't know if there's a dot in between my first and last name.
No, I think it's jaredrusso.bsky.social.
Okay. Just a fascinatingly weird way to handle that, Blue Sky, but you know what? Whatever. Soon, or maybe by the time you're reading this, hopefully this will not be axed, but I am doing a what characters I would like to see in Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. That is going to be something Grant reads, and hopefully doesn't go too long of a list and then puts it in the trash.
I do like to say that. No, that will be up on our website, and you can read that by the time this comes out. 50 whole characters, so check that out.
Where can people find you?
You can go on Blue Sky. You can go to grant.videogame.town and follow me and find all the cool stuff that we're doing at Video Game Town. Podcasts, videos, blog posts. They're
live streams.
We're everywhere, baby. And it's only going to get more. We're going to have, we're currently in the process of setting things up so that we can have freelancers. So we'll have guests on the podcast. I've already have confirmation. We will at some point have our good friend Molly Bradley.
Yay!
She will come and talk to us there. It will be a delight. Molly is lovely, and she'll be happy to talk to all of us about probably Bloodborne.
Molly's the best. Let's talk about Bloodborne. All right, I have to go kill a spider I caught in the corner of my eye. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.